Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. My dear cadets, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. I want to welcome you all warmly to this online class of Islam and Moral Education. This is your teacher, Muhammad Jahangir Hussain Patwari, lecturer in the Department of Islamic Studies from Borishal Cadet College, Borishal. Whereas before we go into the lesson or today's topic, I have to give you the reminders of the present situation, that is coronavirus COVID-19. I hope all of you are observing these things from the very beginning of the outbreak of this disease or deadly disease, and you have been observing this all the way. So you continue to wash your hands, take a bath regularly, keep your hands, mouth, teeth, hair, clothes clean, and you have to drink a lot of water, and you have to stay home in order to save yourselves and others around you. Boys, this is the glimpses of last lessons. In the last lessons, we discussed the contribution Muslims made to learning, science, and technology, where we came to know specifically that Islam always encouraged Muslims for the development of science and technology and to conduct research in all the fields of science and other educations. Now let's proceed to the lesson introduction. Today it is class 10, chapter 5, lessons 15 and 16. Topics: Muslims' contribution to geography and mathematics. We'll be looking into these topics today in today's class, inshallah. Learning outcomes: by the end of these lessons, you should be able to know the contribution of the Muslim in the geography and mathematics, and you should be able to explain why it is important for Muslims to know about the contribution of the Muslim scientists in the past. And at the end, or by the end, you should be able to evaluate their contribution to geography and mathematics. Was geography, before I go into the detail of the contribution of Muslim scientists, I have to give you some background. Science never ever, or science has never ever been separate from Islam. Objective study of this subject will reveal that Islam or Islamic texts, that is Quran and the Sunnah, provided a tremendous boost for study of the physical world and the laws that govern it. As a result, discoveries and inventions became the hallmarks of the Islamic civilization. There has been a surge in the number of publications or dealing with science and its relationship with Islam. Those books have focused on the various verses on the Quran that point to the physical world to prove that science is compatible with Islam. Why I'm telling you this? Because I want to encourage you to have a look into those things. Look into Quran and the Sunnah and find out and discover how Islam has encouraged the science and technology and other branches of knowledge. Today, now let me tell you a little bit background about geography. Uh, Geography, this is a study of the world. Geography is the study of the world or physical world, to be specific. And geography has been highly appreciated and discussed in the Quran. You will find lots of ayats and hadith uh, describing the shape of the earth. That, for example, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saying, وَالْأَرْضَ بَعْدَ ذَلِكَ دَحَاهَا, which means that then we made the earth like egg shape. This ayat is telling us the shape of the earth. It is neither flat nor round. It is a egg shaped. So this has been the concern. Geography has been the concern or has been discussed in detail in the Quran. In addition, the Muslims had to travel to distant lands across plains, cities, deserts, mountains, rivers, and seas during trade, military expedition, and the administration of their vast state. Within 100 years after the advent of Islam, their state stretched from Arabia to India in the east, and Morocco and Spain in the west. In the 10th century, the Islamic State comprised the territories of Arabia, Egypt with the entire northern coast of Africa, nearly the whole of Spain, and the island of Sicily, Greece, some Italian towns, Syria, southeast of the Caucasus, Mesopotamia, including Iraq, the whole of modern Persia, which is Iran, Afghanistan, and southwest territories of India. So travels in these vast lands and their administration necessitated the accumulation of information on them. This is the main background. This is what led to geography or drawing of the world map, naval science. This is the main theme. Then secondly, the science of geography is somewhat related to astronomy. Therefore, the study of geography was also motivated by the same incentive as astronomy, which was the need for determination of the direction of the Kaaba. You know the Kaaba? Yes, the Kaaba located in Mecca, Saudi Arabia is the holiest place in Islam. The Qibla is the direction Muslims face during prayer. Is the direction from their location on earth towards the Kaaba. It is around the Kaaba that ritual circumambulation is performed by Muslims during the Hajj season as well as during the Umrah. So for this very important task, for the orientation of the mosque, Kaaba, and for turning faces towards it during the time of prayer, it was also an important issue to the Muslims. Another factor that motivated the study of geography was the annual Hajj. Before leaving for Hajj, the pilgrims generally collected information on the territories which lay on the way to Mecca. To provide such information, many territories were from different countries to Mecca were shown in this field. In the early days, the information on various lands and its people was supplied mainly by the trader and travelers. In addition, Muslims traders were very active in those days. They reached as far as China, Russia, and the southern tip of Africa. A large number of books on geography were produced by Muslim geographers and travelers, which were widely studied. There are accounts of Ibn Battuta's travel through African jungle. Al-Bakri wrote about West Africa in 167 C or Christian era. The geographical dictionary was compiled by Abul Fida and Yaqut ibn Abdullah, who will come later on in our study, inshallah. So the Muslims started geography for various reasons, among other things, including those things, including those factors. One was naval science. The development of naval technology was launched during the time of the second Khalifa, Umar ibn al-Khattab, when the Muslims started to build the navy. This navy sailed from the ports in Syria and Egypt. Muawiyah radiallahu anh stationed it in the sea, near Cyprus, until this region was open to Islam in 649. The third Khalifa Uthman ibn Affan, the Islamic navy, defeated the Roman navy, which was under the command of the Emperor Constantine. Muslims continued to study geography for these purposes. Um, Among the well-known admirals of the Islamic Navy were Abdullah ibn Abu al-Sarh, who led the Battle of as-Sawari, and Ahmad ibn Dinar ibn Abdullah, who defeated the Roman Navy at the time of Abbasiyo Khalifa al-Mutawakkil. So these all were essence of geography. They had to know the route, they had to draw the war map, war strategy, from which way they will attack, which way they will reach the opponent or enemy land. So these were all the offshoots of geography among the Muslims. And in those days, such great geography or geographian or these Muslim scientists contributed in the field of geography. The Muslims opened up the land routes to India, China, Malaysia, the trade center of Central African trade, and sent their caravans to the rich lands beyond Sahara long before Portuguese reached there. They controlled the sea routes to India and established trade points along the eastern coast of Africa, from the Sudan coast and to Mozambique and Madagascar, and so on and so forth. These are some information from the history, just to tell you about the contribution Muslims made. And among them, the time when Muslims were its peak it is the seventh Abbasi Khalifa al-Ma'mun, who took a keen interest in geography. He appointed 70 scholars to draw a large map of the world. One of those scholars, Ibn al-Musa al-Khawarizmi, who compiled a geographical work which contains the results of the research of these scholars. He made improvements on Ptolemy's geographical work, both in the text and in the maps. He followed Ptolemy in giving the latitudes and longitudes of various places. He also gave the geographical positions of the places which originated after the rise of Islam. So these are some information about this geography that Muslims made contribution to. Now we have some specific scientists in our book to speak about. Al-Muqaddasi, his real name is, Muhammad, while his father's name is Ahmad. Because of his birth in Bayt al-Muqaddas, he is styled Al-Muqaddasi. He was a renowned, geographer. He traveled the whole Muslim world, an empire. He wrote a book, he wrote a book extending over 985 5 pages in the light, and with the experience of his 20 years of traveling. And the name of his book was, أحسن التقاسم في معرفة الأقاليم. Then comes Al-Masudi. He also made the same contribution. Al-Masudi, he was born in Iraq. He was a traveler, historian, geographer, all in one. He has put forward his traveling experience in the history geographical encyclopedia. He drew the map of the world. He has given it the description of the shape, size, and principal divisions of the earth. He mentioned the cyclone situation of the Indian Ocean, the Persian Gulf, and the Arabian Sea. He wrote an article on earthquake as well. And he died in Egypt in 957 CE. Yaqut ibn Abdullah, another geographer, his book that made him famous is Mu'jam al-Buldan. Mu'jam al-Buldan means, the dictionary of the countries, where he tried to collect all the information of the physical world, of all countries in the world in his time. And, and he has also given description about the historical and natural settings of every place, along with introduction. And he died in Baghdad as well in the year 1228. Ibn Khaldun was another one who was very famous and familiar. He is familiar as, geographer. He was born in Tunisia, which is the Tunisia in the world right now. And his worldwide fame is due to his book on geography, which is he named as Kitab al-Ibar wa Diwan al-Mubtada wal Khabar fi Ayyam al-Arab wal A'jam wal Berber. It is this book is shortly known as Al-Muqaddimah. The theories, ideas, information which he has furnished here have immortalized him in the domain of geographical literature. So this contribution was made by the Muslims, scientists in the field of geography. So to conclude, if I want to wrap up this, the session of geography, or Muslims' contribution to geography, I want to say that mainly the institution of Hajj, that is pilgrimage, or the orientation of the mosques towards Mecca, and their need for determining the direction of the Mecca at the time of prayer gave impetus to the Muslims' study of geography. Astronomy, or astrology or astronomy, which necessitated the determining of the latitudes or longitudes of all places throughout the world, added its scientific influence. Muslim traders between 17th and 19th centuries reached China on the east, both by the sea and the land, attained the island and the furthest coast of Africa on the south, which penetrated Russia on the north and were checked in their advance westward only by the waters of the Sea of Darkness, that is the Atlantic. And just to finish the geography part of Muslim scientists' contribution, Ptolemy's geography, which had a list of places located by latitude and longitude, was translated into Arabic. With this as a model, Al-Khawarizmi had composed his Surat al-Ard, image of the earth, which served as a basis for later works and stimulated geographical studies. The composition of original treatise, Al-Khawarizmi's work was accompanied by an image of the earth, a map executed by him and 69 other scholars at the instigation of the Khalifa al-Mamun, the first map of the heavens and the world in Islam. So also Al-Khawarizmi's geography contributed to influence Muslim authors down to the 14th century. So that's all about geography and contribution made by the Muslim scientists. Now let's go to our next section, that is, mathematics, which we say maths in common. Um, Maths has been the main structure of science. It is very important for all of us. I have to say at the very beginning that it has become the fashion to claim that religion is an impediment to scientific advance. But if you look, we'll see that the scientific accomplishment of the Muslims suggests it need not be so. Why? Because most of the mathematical discoveries of the Muslims came about not in spite of religion, but because of religion. Likewise, it was religion that induced Muslim scientists not to limit themselves to one particular field, but to become universalists. In Islam, there is no separation between the spiritual and material that there was in the West. For the Muslims, the material universe is but the visible sign of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And in order to have deep faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it was necessary to investigate all the aspects of His will as manifested in the visible world. As Allah directed human beings to this fact, He says in the Quran, أَفَلَا يَنظُرُونَ إِلَى الْإِبِلِ كَيْفَ خُلِقَتْ وَإِلَى السَّمَاءِ كَيْفَ رُفِعَتْ وَإِلَى الْجِبَالِ كَيْفَ نُصِبَتْ وَإِلَى الْأَرْضِ كَيْفَ سُطِحَتْ. See how beautifully and nicely it was described in the Holy Quran that Muslims were encouraged, by which Muslims were encouraged to do research in all fields of the sciences, and among them the most important is mathematics also. The Muslims, what are the things or main themes? What are the things that Muslims try to do in the field of mathematics? Well, Muslims first introduced number 0. Arabic numbers also introduced by Muslims. Algorithms, Khawarizmi's work on algebra, spherical, analytical, and plane trigonometry, determining roots of equation or quadratic equation, sine and cos tables, cubic equation, work of Banu Musa on geometry. So all these things were studied and touched and classified, categorized by the Muslim scientists, mathematics scientists. So these all were from their contribution that helped us today to reach such a level that now we can say that we have really inherited from them those things. The achievements of Muslims in the field of mathematics are extremely remarkable. By now you can understand or realize and comprehend that those names in front of this, screen, Muhammad ibn Musa al-Khawarizmi, Hassan ibn Haytham, you can definitely guess and believe that how Muslims contributed to the science, to the mathematics. So what I wanted to tell you that Muslims, they laid the foundations on which the Western mathematics developed many centuries later. This is absolutely true. But nobody wants to recognize it nowadays. They want to delete Muslims' contribution from the field of mathematics, which is really awful, and it's a pity. During the 11th century, nearly all of the original and creative work was done by the Muslims. Arabic became the language in which all work was written, and even non-Muslims wrote their mathematical works in Arabic. So Muslims try their level best to contribute uh, in the field of science, and especially in mathematics. Umar ibn al-Khayyam, maybe he's coming next. Yeah, I mean, I will discuss him later on, inshallah. Muhammad ibn Musa al-Khawarizmi, let's have it right now. He was one of the greatest mathematics scientists who discovered, you know, the al-Jabra, which comes from the Kitab, from his book, Hisab al-Jabr wal-Muqabala. Most probably in our book it is also mentioned. If you have a look on those. Algebra was made into an exact science by the Muslims. Al-Khawarizmi named his book dealing with this subject, Al-Kitab Al-Mukhtasar fil Hisab al-Jabr wal-Muqabala. Yes, right. That is the book of comparison and restitution. The word Jabr means restitution. It is the adding of something to a given sum or multiplying it so that it becomes equal to another value. The word muqabala means comparisons and is applied in comparing two sides of an equation, such as a plus b is equal to c. The word al-jabr, which later on turned into the name algebra, is from, it's basically come from the al-jabr. You know, algebra was, it was originally used for simple operations like additions or multiplication, but later it evolved into an entire subject. He is rightly considered the father of algebra, without any doubt. And also the equations described by Khawarizmi were based, and he did not use any symbols in formulating the algebraic equations and their solutions, which as it is common today. So we can understand the Muslims' contribution, especially in the Muhammad bin Musa al-Khawarizmi. And also Hassan ibn Haytham, he was also another great scientist. He wrote so many books that you cannot imagine. He and he not only studied in the field of maths, but also he contributed other fields of science and technologies and knowledge like philosophy, astronomy, medicine, mathematics. In addition, his seminal book on optic science, which name is, it is also included in your book, which says that Kitabul Manazir. Kitabul Manazir is a very important book. Why? Because in this book he refuted the wrong conception of the Greeks on the refraction and reflection of sight. He has shown it with proof that it is from external objects that rays of light are reflected in our eyes. And the rays from the eyes do not make things visible to us. It was he who invented the magnifying glass. Ibn Haytham had extremely discussed the science of light long ago. Although modern scientists lay their claim on it, there occur variations in the weight of matters depending on the what it says atmospheric weight, pressure, and heat. He also discussed gravitation in his books. It is believed or said that it is Ibn Haytham who first presented the idea of gravitation, although Sir Isaac Newton is regarded as the profounder of the theory of gravitation. So these two scholars, followed by these scholars as well, you know, Umar al-Khayyam, which I postponed earlier, telling about it or talking about it later. Now I'm going to take. Umar ibn Ibrahim, his name is Umar ibn Ibrahim. Umar ibn Ibrahim al-Khayyam. He was one of the greatest Muslim mathematicians and astronomers of the Middle Ages. While Al-Khawarizmi deals only with uh, quadratics, and Umar al-Khayyam mostly discussed the cubic equations. He makes a remarkable classification of the equations, which are based on complexity of the equation, that is on the number of different terms which they contain. Also, the Banu Musa, or the sons of Musa, wrote a series of important original studies. One title was done by Muhammad ibn Musa ibn al-Shakir, which dealt with the measurement of the sphere and trisection of the angle and determination of two mean proportionals to form a single division between the two given quantities. His interest was not limited to geometry. He also wrote works on mechanics, the atom, the origin of the earth, and essay. So Muslims continued to contribute in the field of science, especially in mathematics, on the basis of the Quran and Sunnah. In the Quran, we find one ayat, قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ Allahu Samad, and till the last of the surah. Allah saying, you tell Muhammad, the whole mankind, that Allah is the one and only. So we find the concept of one here. And I forgot to tell you about one thing, that zero, how zero came. Sifr. Zero in Arabic called sifr. The word zero also the contribution of the Arabic language. Lots of Arabic scientific terms are used in the field of maths, which was used by the Muslim scientists much before. Nasiruddin Tusi. Nasiruddin Tusi was another scientist that was in 1201, and there was in 1201 he was born in Persia, which is now currently Iran. He wrote many books on geometry, trigonometry, astrology, and he contributed, by writing many books on mathematics, which include, Mutawassitat, Bayan al-Handasa wal Hayya, and Jami' al-Hisab, many books written by Nasiruddin Tusi. He tried his best to show all the equations and all the mathematical terms in his books. So what we learn from all these scientists, or all these contribution of science, the conclusion I want to draw here is that Muslims should never lag behind in the field of science and technology. We should never do this. We should never, blame our religion that we cannot do this, or we are not supposed to do it, which is very upset. Now, the only way Muslim can take this leadership in the field of science is by going back to what gave them the leadership in the first place. That is the comprehensive adherence to Islam, full acceptance of the Islamic belief, and complete implementation of all systems of Islam, as this will create the correct framework for development in all branches, in all sectors, in all the ways, including science and technology. And furthermore, the vast intellectual strength and material resources in the Muslim world can only be utilized effectively if the Muslims are united under a single system, as was the case in the past. So uh, we should not blame Islam that Islam doesn't allow. It is absolutely baseless and untrue. That Islam doesn't allow these scientific studies uh, much more. So I hope these are the some of the idea I have shared with you. It is nothing, boys, compared with the contribution Muslims made, but this is just part of a touch. It's a introduction or trying our level best to inspire ourselves not to lag behind, rather advance in the field of science and technology in the days to come. Otherwise, it will be extremely difficult for us to cope up with the rest of the world, and we'll be falling much behind without any hesitancy or hesitation. Now, boys, this is the time for questions session. If you have any question, please ask me a question or write down the question and send it to me. Inshallah, I'll be able to answer your question. This is the homework, and the homework is given for you just for your better understanding. Once you go through the stream and answer the following 4 questions. Have a look at this. Who draw the map of the world first, and explain the what was Hassan ibn Hisam famous for. Explain the view of Jafar Islamically, and how is the opinion of Jashim from Islamic history. Next lessons, these are the next lessons we are, inshallah, we have already discussed. Maybe we can again talk about it as a whole, or as some question and answering system. And lastly, thanks to you all, boys. Please stay safe and stay home, stay safe and stay healthy. I would like to end today's class here. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.